This was just a true spiritual calling for me to work in this space. But the one bold decision we made is that no conversation about people with disabilities without them being a part of it. Today's podcast is about me. This isn't about overcoming, it's about owning it. Welcome to Disability.
Hi everyone, my name is Brian Stephen Pinto and today is the first podcast of Speshally called Disability, a space where we talk about main issues surrounding disability and inclusion in the society. I am pleased to be here with Rolif who is the co-founder of Speshally. We are here to talk about why inclusion is in just a HR job. Rolif, welcome Rolif.
Thank you, Brian. It's a pleasure to be here. And before we start, Brian, I wanted to introduce you as well. So Brian has joined us a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Right. And tell me a little bit about yourself, Brian.
So everyone, my name is Brian Stephen Pinto. I have joined Speshally just 20 days back. So I'm a cerebral palsy employee here, working as a marketing intern under Rolif. And talking about myself, I am a 6 months premature kid, and yes, talking about my disease, cerebral palsy, it's a nerve issue. So my right side of nerve is little bit of stiff and weak. So that's it about.
Thank you.
Myself.
Thanks for sharing that, Brian. Did you ever think that having cerebral palsy, you'll be running a podcast like this?
No, seriously no. And I would have never thought that I would be speaking in front of the camera.
Do you think anything about cerebral palsy stops you from speaking in front of camera?
No, nothing. I would really empower those who are in cerebral palsy condition today to just get up and go, and you can do it. You can do many things if you will to do.
Thank you. Super.
Thank you so much.
Today's podcast is about me.
Yeah.
Okay?
So today's podcast is mainly focused on our co-founder Rolif. So hi Rolif, you have started Speshally and now you are a leading aesthetic foundation, both organization with empowering people with disability. Why this passion for helping people with disability?
I have no real personal lived experience with people with disability. I don't have a family member who's a person with disability. I don't have relatives who are very close and people with disabilities. This is just a true spiritual calling for me to work in this space. And that's why I decided to go and leave my job, start Speshally, and now be part of STSS Foundation.
Was there a specific moment for you to go to this move?
Yes. So, as part of my spiritual journey, as I was sitting in church one day, I was trying to find my true purpose in life. I knew I was not comfortable with what I was doing, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. And while I was sitting in church, there is a song, a hymn that came. And the name of the song is called God's Spirit is in My Heart. And the lyrics go something like this: God's Spirit is in my heart, He has called me and set me apart. This is what I have to do, what I have to do. He sent me to send the good news to the poor, tell prisoners they are prisoners no more, tell blind people that they can see, and set the downtrodden free. Brian, when I heard the last two sentences, tell blind people that they can see and set the downtrodden free, I felt something in me, which is something I can't explain. It was an out of this world experience for me. And at that moment, I had absolute clarity that my world needs to be dedicated to empowering people with disabilities. And this is not a small problem. This is a very, very big problem, especially in India, where around 15% of population of India, we are at 1.5 billion people now. 15% of that is a huge number, 200 million. Where are they? How are they getting empowered? How are they getting jobs? So that's why I got moved into this space and started Speshally.
Indeed, Rolif. God's Spirit is in our hearts. So you are leading a large organization across continents. How are you managing Speshally? Especially, how do you feel about this transition?
Yeah, I was managing countries across Africa, Middle East, Asia, Eurasia, and JPAC. And while I was seated and having these large conversations about budgets, direction, strategy, somewhere I felt that I had lost touch with the real on the ground experience. I was working in a pharma company. So what did the patients really feel? What did they go through? What did their families go through? What change am I bringing in their lives? I felt too far away from that. So actually, I look at Speshally as really solving that one problem I had, which was trying to get close to the real problem on the ground. Today, I'm engaging with so many people with disabilities every day through interviews, through job opportunities, through conversations, and that makes me fulfilled. So yes, I do miss the business class flights, I do miss the fancy hotels, but I find real passion and joy to be speaking here with you and many people like you.
So nice of you, Rolif. So what was a bold decision you made for inclusion in Speshally?
Yeah, Speshally as a company was designed to help other organizations become more inclusive, specifically around people with disabilities. But the one bold decision we made is that no conversation about people with disabilities without them being a part of it. And we made a choice to have people with disabilities a core part of Speshally. So today I'm very proud to say that more than 50% of the organization at Speshally are people with disabilities. And only then can we help other organizations become more inclusive in their approach.
How was working with people with disability has shifted the way you define leadership?
Yeah. So I had in my leadership journey come across something called situational leadership, which means that you don't apply one form of leadership to every person. You interact with the person and you understand what they need, and you apply that form of leadership to that person. So based on the situation, based on the person is how you interact and evolve. And while I was working in my previous jobs, I think it was a much moderated version of it. Today, as I'm interacting and engaging with so many different kinds of people, so many different kinds of disabilities, I need to understand what are the challenges that you are facing and help you meet you there where you are, rather than expecting you to come where I am. Right? That is not easy as a leader. I often struggle with it, but that's how I see myself changing in a very large way. How I would interact with you versus how I would interact with somebody with visual impairment versus how I would interact with someone who has no known disability are three different ways. And I think that is, from what I've understood, a hallmark of good leadership is being able to flex yourself based on the person and based on the situation.
So do you think inclusion is just an HR job?
If it were, then I wouldn't be here doing this. I truly, genuinely believe inclusion is not an HR's job. Yes, inclusion can be initiated by HR, but every person from the top to the bottom can be part of this change. The one question I ask is, imagine if HR takes the initiative, hires 5 people with disabilities, but if they don't fit in the organization, if their peers don't accept them, if they don't get immersed in the organization, is that really a successful change? And that's not. So HR can by no way drive it till the end. They can initiate it, they can be the pioneers of change, but it truly has to be an organizational role collectively.
If inclusion was treated like revenue or cost, which every department tracks, how would that change the company? How would that change the company's culture?
So this is a double-edged sword. On one hand, I think once inclusion becomes part of a metric and it gets included in your KPIs that you need to deliver, you will see positive change. You will see that happen moving in the right direction. However, I have also seen that sometimes in order to achieve some goals, we tend to find very creative ways that solves the number issue but not the true intent. Let me give you an example. Imagine if I was working in a company and I was given a goal that I need to hire 5 people with disabilities in my team. Right? The goal is to hire 5, but it doesn't tell me where I need to hire 5, what they need to do and what they don't need to do. So a very easy solution for me would be to hire 5, put them in one room tell them that you can do whatever you want, and have my real team focus on the work that I want to do. Would that solve the problem? I don't think so. The real solution is to get them being immersed. However, through the process, at least those 5 would get a job. So that's what I mean, it's a double-edged sword. It's a good thing, but it needs to be managed with the right intent.
So Rolif, what's a day at Speshally really look like?
There is no one template for a day at Speshally. Fortunately for us, we continue to have really innovative conversations with clients and companies who are trying to bring inclusion into their organizations. And no one solution fits everyone. So we try to tailor it for them. At the same time, we engage with so many people with disabilities, looking for opportunities, looking for ways to become successful. So it just keeps evolving every day as I come on board. I have a lovely white board that I use, and that's where all the ideas get curated, and that's how the plan for the day begins, and it completely changes half the way through.
So Rolif, many leaders feel stuck after the awareness stage. What is the first action step you recommend when they ask where to begin?
Right. It's very good that you know something, but it's really important that you act on that knowledge. I remember asking my mentor, I want to wake up at 5 in the morning. How do I wake up at 5? Is there a solution? Is there a magic trick to this? And he said, there is only one way to do this. When the alarm rings at 5, you just wake up. There is no magic. So it's the same here with inclusion, right? The moment you're aware and you feel like you want to do something, just start by doing it. Take that one step, take that one action, and that will snowball into something bigger. Try to interview one person with disability in the next 1 month. Try to purchase one product made by a person with disability. Try to have some kind of a conversation around disability or inclusion within your teams. It doesn't take a lot. It's very easy to do.
What is the myth about disability or inclusion that you would love to bust?
People assume, including myself, I did assume, that disability is binary, meaning that either you have a disability or you don't. And then the second part of it is people assume that if you are a person with disability, you can't really do any work or contribute to society. But that's not true at all. Disability is like a spectrum. There is no start, there is no end. It's just fluid state. And each person is different in their situation. And a person with disability doesn't mean that they can't do work. Each person can do work in the capacity that they exist. For example, today you're here, you are doing this podcast. Could there ever be an assumption that a person with cerebral palsy will be doing a podcast like this 20 days after joining a company? No, but you're doing it today, right? If I had to choose that you could do, if I would hire a person with disability to do a podcast, it wouldn't work. But we went ahead, we brought you in, and we said, Brian, are you willing to take this challenge? And you said, yes, I'm willing to step up. So any person, given the chance and having the right motivation, can do work. We should get rid of the notion that a person is a person with disability or is not. It's irrelevant.
So what is the one moment, especially that reminds you, this is why we do what we do?
Yes. So about a year and a half ago, we hired a young boy who was very coy, very shy, wasn't very outgoing, but had a willingness to want to do something. It took us 3 months to figure out that we weren't actually coming to a point where he was growing or we were finding a solution. But suddenly, we started to see a change in him. He started to make some beautiful diaries, which we taught him how to make. And each day he got better. When we used to go to pop-ups, he started to build more and more confidence. In the beginning, he was very shy and quiet. Now he was outgoing and reaching clients, going out of the way to meet them and call them to the counter. His confidence grew. We saw him growing as a person. And about a year later, I was surprised one day to see him very well dressed, very sharply dressed. He had a new phone with him, and I found out a rumor that he also has a girlfriend now.
Oh.
Right? So his life transformed in a very positive way. And I'm not saying that I had a role to play in his transformation, that's not it. The point of the story is, we gave him a platform. We gave him an opportunity to build his own confidence, his own self. And he flourished in the way he thought was best for himself. And that's when I realized that we are creating value here, especially, and this is why we do what we do.
Yeah, indeed a proud woman, Rolif.
Yes.
What is...
Do you have a girlfriend, Brian?
No.
Okay, so 10 months later, we'll do this podcast again.
Yeah, sure. What is something people never seen on the outside that they should know?
About Speshally?
Yes.
Yes, so people assume, often ask me as well, how is it that you work with so many people with disabilities? And what I tell them is, why don't you come in and see that this is nothing different than any other office that you can imagine. Every person here with or without disability has targets, has goals, has been given work that they need to do, that they can do. Yes, what we have done is we've understood what kind of roles a certain person with disability can do and what roles they should not do. But once the role is assigned and the job is given, getting that done in the target KPI is their responsibility. So I want people to understand that running an organization with people with disabilities is no different than running any other organization. It just requires minor tweaks.
So Rolif, what is something in the hiring process that should have been cancelled yesterday?
I find many people with disabilities choose not to disclose the fact that they are disabled on their resume, which I think is a complete shame. And when I talk to them why that is, they tell me that when they do that, they don't even get calls for interviews. I think this is truly a shame. Whether a person has a disability or not, if the person displays the right amount of experience and skill, give them a chance to at least an interview. Let them express themselves, understand what they can and cannot do, and understand their potential. And if they have that potential, then give them a chance. But I would say that, not even giving them a chance to interview and present themselves, I think is a big mistake. And this should have been cancelled a long time ago.
So we now move on to the next segment.
Okay.
That is this or that.
Okay.
For example, morning person or night person.
Certainly a morning person. Certainly not a night person.
So first is being invited to the table or building your own table.
Building my own table, like we're doing here especially.
So second, are one inclusive leader or 10 silent allies.
I think one inclusive leader, because that leader could build 100 such allies.
Third, adapt the person to the system or change the system for the person.
I feel in the context of India, the system is so broken. It would be unfair for me to have the person adapt to the system. I think we have to change the system.
Inclusive hiring or inclusive retention, which is harder to get right?
For the stage we are in at the moment, I think it's hiring. It's about just getting the hurdle of moving into that first step. Once you hire, I'm sure that you'll find creative ways to manage the retention.
Emotional labor or silence, which one costs more?
Silence costs a lot more. I think just sitting by and watching things happen and not speaking up is certainly very, very expensive.
More exhausting, proving your worth or educating others?
Educating others is really hard. I find educating myself is also tough, but sometimes we carry so many assumptions and the past experiences, we find it hard to unlearn and then learn.
Advocacy in public or change in private?
I believe that change in private is the most deepest form of change, and I wish that our advocacy could bring that kind of change in people.
So awareness campaign or policy reform?
Policy reform. I could do a lot of awareness about policies, but if there's no policies, it's really hard to drive change.
So top-down change or bottom-up movement?
I'd love a bottom-up movement, but I believe top-down is the way to go.
So last question, hiring for skill or hiring for potential?
I'd say hiring for potential. When you hire for potential, you can teach them the skill. You're here doing a podcast, you had no skill or experience of doing a podcast, but you're doing it here today.
Yes.
And I hired you for your skill. Maybe podcast was not one of them. Right?
Yes.
But given a platform, I think you're doing a fantastic job.
Yes.
You maintained that smile throughout that podcast. And
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
I don't think anyone listening will make out that this is your first ever podcast. Well done.
Yeah, thank you so much. So Rolif, we really enjoyed talking to you, at this our first podcast at Speshally. So everyone, thank you for watching us, dear viewers. And if you like this podcast, do drop a like, comment your thoughts in this, and do subscribe to the channel, and do follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, and stay safe and stay happy wherever you are. Take care.
Thank you, everyone.